Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom, where we bring you engaging conversations and respectful disagreement across the social spectrum.
Injected with the quirks of everyday life.
Curl up as we navigate the complexities of this modern world with all the humor and warmth we can muster.
And the occasional gentle ribbing. We're glad you're here. Happy listening.
Hello there. Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom. We're glad you're here today. How are you guys?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm glad to be here with y'all.
Be here too. So we're kind of revisiting. Have you ever heard that it's illegal to flick a booger in the wind, or that you can't wake a sleeping firefighter in Wisconsin? I mentioned some of these crazy laws in one of our previous episodes. And today we're digging into the history of these weird, wild, and apparently commonly misunderstood laws across the U.S. and figuring out where they actually came from. So we did some research. Some are real, some are myths, and some left us wondering what on earth was going on when they were written. Y'all ready to get into it?
I'm ready for sure.
So Cal, start with California.
Okay. In California, you mentioned that it is illegal to set a mousetrap without a hunting license, which I personally thought was, it feels very California to me.
It does.
And so I thought that was pretty funny and did some research. The mousetrap law is a weird legal tidbit that circulated online, but it's very definitely being misrepresented. The claim is that you have to have a hunting license to set a mousetrap, but there's a smidge, a kernel of truth to it. So in California's Fish and Game Code, Section 3003.5 states that it is illegal to use a trap to capture or kill any mammal without proper authorization, aka a hunting license. And since mice are technically mammals, some people have interpreted this to mean that even setting a mousetrap could require your hunting license. However, in practice, this law is intended for larger wildlife, such as deer, coyotes, and other animals that might be trapped for sport or pest control. And it actually wasn't meant to regulate the use of household mousetraps.
That's really...
Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I still feel like I could see California doing something like that.
Right?
I mean, yeah. But I mean, we kind of found that throughout. They're either so exaggerated or, so the part that really shocked me on some of these is how many legal firms you could find that used these same laws and just perpetuated the myth when they weren't really laws.
It sounds to me like somebody needed some content for a legal blog, and they're like, oh, yeah, let's use that. And then didn't ever bother to do their own due diligence. And is this real? Oh, this isn't actually real. Some goofball put a list out there at some point that just continued to be perpetuated over and over and over again. And now they're real. And you're like, but they're not. Why are you talking?
Yeah. I just expected a legal firm to be more accurate about laws than what we saw in some of our research.
I found that there was a lot of writing between the lines, not so much reading between the lines, as they will take these very kind of vague ordinances and laws and come up with extremely specific scenarios that would match these.
Yeah.
Like, for example, taking a look, there are a lot of supposedly crazy laws in the state of Alabama. One of them is that it's illegal to wear a fake mustache that makes people laugh in church. Well, if you go and you start looking, at the law firms that are writing about this, they start to break it down into a little bit more detail. In reality, it's sort of true. Because some people will claim that there's a specific law preventing this, but no one seems to actually be able to find it. What most of these scholars are saying is that it's actually just referring to causing a public disturbance. Disorderly conduct is the actual charge, where any unauthorized or unlawful disruption of a lawful meeting or assemblage of people could be considered as disorderly conduct, for which you can be charged and fined, I think it was like up to $500 and 3 months in jail.
My gosh.
But that's what they're using to essentially say, oh, it's against the law to wear a fake mustache and make people laugh at church.
So again, I go back to that goofball that I mentioned a minute ago who went and quote unquote interpreted these normal laws and said, hey, what's the weirdest way that somebody could read into this that would be illegal? Oh, this. And then let's put that out there. And then people have just picked it up and run with it.
Okay, so we're going to go in that same vein about in Ohio, it's illegal to get a fish drunk. And there's just no record of how or why. It's a myth that probably comes from a law prohibiting agricultural runoff, which makes sense about poisoning fish, not specifically getting fish drunk. And so that was coming from fermented grains in silos. And so the Department of Natural Resources, but, it's just a stretch of the law. Interestingly enough, though, you could also find one very similar in Oklahoma where you don't see as many silos as you do. So I don't know. They said this could be related to fish berries, a poisonous berry that Indians used to use to paralyze or stupefy fish. It's just kind of it's a stretch. Now, my other law from Ohio, from Cleveland, had a little bit more actuality to it. And this one was about women being prevented from wearing patent leather shoes in public. This one really cracked me up because men would be able to see the reflection. Remember that in the 50s, women were mostly wearing dresses and skirts. And so you could supposedly, and this is going to have to be a pretty good eye and a pretty damn good shiny pair of patent leather shoes. It would allow you to see the reflection underneath the woman's skirt in her patent leather shoes.
So we're keeping people being perved.
Yeah. But at least it had...
Great, I guess.
It had some basis, at least. It wasn't just like, hey, let's see how stupid we can make this sound.
So that kind of made me laugh because there's also the one that you had mentioned previously, Mom, about women aren't allowed to drive in housecoats in California, which there is no basis of. There are a couple of different blog posts that talk about, it had to do with a code of ethics and a dress code. And then it kind of got turned into this whole thing that it never was or was never intended to be. There is no law on the books. There has never been a law on the books that women cannot wear specific things in the car.
Of course, the funny part of that to me is that neither you or Cole knew what a housecoat was. I think y'all questioned.
Confirmed.
You confirmed. Okay, yeah. But I would also say women used to wear housecoats more. It wasn't just a robe that you put on, when you got out of bed or when you were walking around fixing breakfast. So it was kind of funny.
That was prior to yoga pants. So
I found one, again, from Alabama, which, again, this one may be a little bit less of a stretch, but it's still pretty overly specific where someone else has taken just kind of a general law and made it super specific to a circumstance. But you mentioned earlier it being illegal to flick boogers into the wind.
Yeah.
Which
that's what it says.
There's not a specific law in Alabama that prohibits the flicking of boogers into the wind. There are, however, littering laws that would prevent you from leaving bodily fluids behind in a public place.
Ooh, I was worried about what he was going to say right there.
Yeah. There are also ordinances where, not necessarily specific to littering, but to where the display or throwing of bodily fluids could be considered a public nuisance, and you may be held legally responsible for your actions should you do so.
Yeah. Can you imagine, though, maybe not your juvie record, but your arrest record, and it's showing public nuisance for flicking boogers
or dumping cups of tears on your ex-boyfriend's parent's house, like on their door, or poop.
I mean, that's pretty funny. So were y'all disappointed? I was kind of disappointed. I wanted these to be legitimate laws, even if they were old on the books. And I was really disappointed that they were more myth than not.
I have a legitimate one for you, one that is actually even more real than what we talked about last time.
Okay, give it to me.
So in Wisconsin, you had said that it is illegal to serve butter substitutes in their state prison.
Yes, and I didn't understand this. I thought that was mean.
It's actually against the law to serve butter substitutes across the entire state of Wisconsin in any public eatery.
Because?
Unless the customer specifically requests it.
Because?
And that is in place to protect and to exemplify their precious dairy industry.
Yes. I mean, that one made sense to me after you get the explanation of it. I was kind of impressed by that one.
So I have a real one too, and mine is probably less exciting than butter in Wisconsin, but in New Jersey, it is absolutely, unquestionably illegal to pump your own gas. I have several neighbors who now live in Texas, but are all from New Jersey, and since 1949 have required full-service gas stations everywhere in the state of New Jersey. It's officially known as the Retail Gasoline Dispensing Safety Act. It was put in place due to safety concerns about fire hazards and exposure to gasoline fumes, which kind of made me scratch my head a little bit. And I'm like, oh, so the guys servicing it can be around all of those fumes. We're just going to canary in the coal mine this, but okay, cool. And so then over the years, it has been defended as a way to protect jobs for gas station attendants. You probably wouldn't get arrested if you were to try and pump your own gas because you're a foreigner from the state of New Jersey. But a gas station employee would immediately stop you, or they could even refuse to turn on the pump at all.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Now, growing up, you always had an attendant. Even in Texas, you had an attendant. You know, that was where the deal from Texaco, the man who wears the star, because he was the gas attendant. He would come in, and in all honesty, and I think I said this before, my mom did not pump her own gas until I was probably in high school. I mean, it just didn't happen. There was always an attendant there to do it.
I think they should instate that everywhere. I think that would be great.
You know, I've always heard that you have to be careful of getting out of your car because of friction, but that seems really far-fetched to me. Maybe we should.
Yeah, we would see gas stations blowing up all the time.
Let's see. In Kansas, another one where it's kind of a stretch, pedestrians crossing the highway at night must wear tail lights. And that's really just that if you are walking down the highway, you need to have some type of reflector on, not necessarily tail light.
I don't think that's specific just to Kansas, though. I think that's required in most places.
Well,
it's at least smart to do at most places, particularly if you're walking down the highway.
Particularly if you're on the highway. But
I would be curious as to how much any of that is policed anywhere.
I bet that a police officer, if someone saw you walking down the highway at night,
wearing all black,
they would stop you. Probably not arrest you, but stop you just because of the danger that imposes.
But do you think if they rolled up on you and you're dressed in all yellow, they're going to do anything different?
Well, I think yellow is a little bit more reflective. I think that's probably a gray area. But I mean, this says reflective technically, but black would be much different, much worse. What else you got, Cal?
In Ocean City, New Jersey, it is against the law to slurp your soup, kind of. So there were ordinances that were put in place to maintain public decorum and etiquette. And that was a lot more common in the early 20th century. And so they did put this law in place about slurping soup specifically in a restaurant. I guess you can do it in your own home. Public decorum versus private decorum, totally different things. And so it is rarely, if ever, actually enforced. There are no known cases where anybody has actually been fined or arrested for slurping their soup in Ocean City, New Jersey, but it is technically on the books.
I mean, I could see a couple of other laws that might be nice there. Can't chew with your mouth open. Can't talk with food in your mouth.
I feel like that would be everywhere.
I know. I mean, so I could just see, public decorum,
So speaking of those old laws, this one, not only is it not enforced anymore, it's not actually on the books anymore. But you had mentioned about it being illegal to sell peanut brittle in Virginia on a Sunday. But if you start searching for this, you'll find all kinds of different websites saying illegal to sell different things like lettuce or shoes or whatever that particular article states.
Yeah.
But what this is actually referring to is, I want to say in like the mid 1700s, Virginia had a group of laws that were referred to as their blue laws, the Virginia blue laws, which were essentially put in place to prohibit work or conducting business on Sundays. So those were actually removed. Let's see. Oh, excuse me. Those blue laws started in the early 1600s, 1610, and then they were repealed in 1988.
I find that interesting, and I saw that date earlier today because Texas used to have blue laws. And so there were things that you couldn't leave church and go get. You definitely could not go and buy, beer or wine on Sunday because it was a Texas blue law. I didn't realize that they were from the 1600s, but they were all put away. And I would have said
Texas probably weren't, but Virginia's were.
I bet Texas was along in there. I wonder why they got rid of them.
I wonder what blue laws.
Yeah.
No idea.
I don't know. More to look at. Okay. This one, and we've had conversations kind of about this. In Oklahoma, violators can be arrested and or jailed for making ugly faces at a dog.
Good.
Love it.
And which was Cole's response earlier. Good, you shouldn't be making faces at a dog. And it's for the exact reason that he's thinking, and that is that it's considered harassment. And so they don't want you to do that. It was not just in Norman, Oklahoma, but it was also a law in Normal, Illinois. But it was because it was considered harassment to the dog.
Good.
Interesting. That's funny. So I have a couple of goofy ones from New York State that were kind of fascinating. So one of them that you had mentioned in the previous episode, Mom, was that it's illegal to throw a ball at somebody's head for fun.
Yeah.
Technically, it is illegal to throw a ball at somebody's head for fun.
No dodgeball in New York?
Well, kind of. So New York Penal Code Section 10-162 prohibits people from intentionally throwing a ball at someone's head for amusement. The intent was likely to prevent injuries, especially among children. It's one of those old, rarely enforced laws that probably made more sense when it was written. However, if someone were to be seriously hurt while having a ball thrown at their head, they could still have charges filed against them, such as assault.
Oh, that's interesting.
I would have been in jail.
I mean, don't hate on good aim.
Only if she really hurt you bad.
It was never the goal.
Sure.
Which never the goal publicly.
Hey, you got any more?
Yeah. So I actually have two, going back to Wisconsin and Virginia. I read through, well, I didn't actually read all of it, but I searched through the Racine, Wisconsin municipal code, and there's nothing on the books there, at least not on their website, that specifically states that it is illegal to wake up a sleeping fireman. So that one's very similar to the next one, has been proliferated online, but not actually on the books. The other one, and this one was really interesting, the flipping a coin to see who pays for coffee in Virginia. Also not an actual law, not on the books, Now, at one point, Virginia did have a prohibition on gambling, and I guess you could consider this gambling. However, if you go and you start looking for this online, there are people who will swear it is specifically for coffee, not just in any restaurant, and that it is on the books somewhere, but none of them seem to be able to provide evidence of this.
But that's funny.
So also another one that maybe someone was reading between the lines and was being hyper-specific, but there are a lot of people who seem to be very convinced that this is a real thing.
That's interesting. Okay, in Kansas, and this one's kind of the same. No one may catch fish with his bare hands. And technically, it is a law, but it's about you can only catch it for the season. And so what they're doing is protecting the fish.
So wait, is that like fishing season or hand catching fishing season?
It is flathead catfish, sunrise to sunset in parts of the state and sometime in the summertime. It ends August the 15th.
So, I wonder if that's like during their spawn or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's meant to protect the fish. So we kind of talked about it like noodling, but it's not the same kind of thing.
Well, I mean, that's what noodling would be after.
Well, I mean, yes, noodling is sticking your hand in the fish's mouth, but this is really to protect them during that season so that you...
Right, but they're saying don't go digging around in their holes while they're mating.
Well, it doesn't say that, but...
That is the typical spawn season.
You can take that if that's how you want to interpret it. But this is how things get added weird when we're just having little debates like...
I mean, I suppose that's probably fair.
Okay.
So this one is, I don't mean to tank everything here, but the one about New York State, the penalty for jumping off of a building is death.
Yeah.
Also a bit. Neither suicide nor attempted suicide are crimes in New York. If someone were to jump off of a building and they survive, they might be taken into protective custody or receive medical or mental health care. But nowhere is it officially stated that the death penalty is the result of jumping off of a building in New York. Not that I'm encouraging that you should go and try it. Anyway.
So how many buildings in New York can you jump off of and survive?
No, very
good question. I have no idea.
I mean, seriously.
I mean, I feel like if you were trying to commit suicide by jumping off of a building and then they come at you and they're like, oh, now we're going to slap you with a fine or jail time, that probably wouldn't be the best thing for your mental health.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Oh, so we've kind of picked on other stuff. Did you find stuff in Texas?
I did.
Go for it.
So this one is specifically the city of Galveston, and the proliferated version online is that it is illegal to sit or lie down on the sidewalk in Galveston. And this is technically true, but there are several caveats to this. So one, I was telling Mom earlier, I think Galveston may have a soft spot for drunks because this, you can actually find it in the Galveston Municipal Code, and it specifically states that from the hours of 7 a.m. until 2 a.m., it is illegal to sit or lie down or place a stool or a blanket or any object so as to inhibit passage of pedestrians.
So from 2 a.m. to 7 in the morning.
From 7 a.m. until 2 a.m. So from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m., totally fine.
Oh.
Absolutely legal. So I guess if you're drunk and you pass out on the sidewalk after the bar closes, totally fine. As long as you're out of there by 7 a.m. But it's also only in a very specific area of Galveston, the central business district. So it's not the entire city. It's just that one district, or anywhere else that the city council approves and designates as an area that you cannot impede sidewalk traffic.
Kelly, where would that be in Galveston?
Lord, if I know.
I mean, it's not
Near the
really.
center.
Where?
Near the center.
Well, Galveston's not really laid out. I mean, there's the part where the cruise ships come in, which is kind of where, when you were telling me about it earlier, I thought, oh, that must be over by the cruise ships.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you've got the seawall area. But I've never been in Galveston where I thought, oh, this is the city square. But I'm curious where that line is actually drawn. Okay, Cal, you're Texas?
Okay.
Felon?
I did. And I was telling Mom about it the other day, and truth be told, she kind of shit on it, but I'm going to share it anyway. So, I mean, she just added some logic to it, which was kind of annoying, but fine.
Okay.
So, in Texas, it is illegal to sell your eyeballs. So, according to the Texas Penal Code, Section 48.02, it is illegal to sell all human organs, and that includes eyeballs. I thought it was kind of funny that eyeballs were specifically mentioned, but Mom was like, well, Callie, of course they're organs, just like your skin or your liver. And I was like, oh, I mean, I guess that's true, but it's illegal to sell your eyeballs in Texas. So yeah.
Messing with you.
Not that I was trying to.
No. Okay. Well, mine went a little bit closer to home. I found one that was an ordinance in Denton, Texas in 1960 to combat public harassment. And this one, and Callie, you'll appreciate this one after our conversation about the patriarchy. The ordinance stated that it shall be unlawful for any male person in the city of Denton, Texas, to flirt with or ogle any female person unknown to him, or to utter, make, or produce any sound intended or calculated to attract the attention of such female person or to annoy or embarrass such person. So our conversation had been about catcalls. So it was actually illegal in Denton to make catcalls, but no mention of this law after 1948.
Funny. I mean, but also why? Everybody talks about, I feel like you hear about, the 50s are when things started really going to shit in America. Maybe they should have kept stuff like this
on the books.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just kind of have a random, how often do y'all get catcalled?
in that age bracket.
How often did you used to get catcalled?
I'll say this, Cole, and this is going to sound really arrogant. It happens a lot. Walking into the grocery store or, just unwanted advances of somebody trying to talk to you, and you're just like, dude, leave me alone. And I don't think that it has anything to do with your age. I think that it primarily has to do with the fact that you're a female, and females in general are expected to be nice and be polite and handle those things and just take those things. It happens a lot more than you think.
Am I going to be super proud of you and you're going to tell me that you have never done that to a woman?
Of course not.
Wait, of course not. You're going to make...
No, I do not catcall women.
Oh.
Your mama must have raised you.
Pat her up.
I would have to speak to women before I started catcalling them.
I mean, yeah. I thought it was interesting that this one said that if you didn't know them. So
Yeah.
it's different if, it was my husband or...
Yeah, I feel like most frequently it is homeless men.
Really?
Yeah. I went to jury duty. Do you not remember this? I went to jury duty here a few months ago, almost a year ago now. And this guy started talking to me. This homeless man on the street started talking to me as I was walking into the courthouse. And he was like, oh, girl. I'm not even going to go into it. And I finally was like, I'm not interested. Sorry. Like, leave me alone.
Wait for that.
And he started throwing a big, huge fit about what a bitch I was and how awful I was. It was because I wanted to give him money. I'm like, sorry, leave me alone. It was also raining. Like, why he wanted me to stop and chit chat at that moment didn't make sense to me. Whatever. I don't know.
Any others? Did we hit everything? Did we cover everything? The weird stuff?
That's all the laws I've got.
And again, I just was disappointed. I mean, you get these and you think that they're really funny, and then you find out that half of them aren't even based in reality. It was pretty sad.
Yeah, it really kind of was. And I'm with you, Mom. I was kind of bummed about it. Like, I definitely wanted to know the story behind why it was outlawed that you can't flick boogers into the wind.
Yes.
I just wanted to know. I was sure that there was a good story behind it. And oh, that makes perfect sense. Of course they would outlaw flicking boogers.
And it's just bodily fluid.
Yeah.
Any bodily fluid, which kind of makes sense.
You got any good news this week?
Well, speaking of laws, we saw an article about a little boy. He was 3
or 4, I think.
3 or 4, who called 911 because his mama was being bad. She was being bad because she wouldn't let him have any ice cream.
She ate his ice cream.
Oh, that's right. She ate his ice cream. And so, I mean, there's a recording of the 911 call where he's like, I'm calling because my mama needs to go to jail because she's been bad. And he's 3. And I can't decide if this was good or bad, but the police officers came the next day and brought him ice cream. But they also had a conversation with him about how he wasn't supposed to do the 911. And his mama and grandma were really impressed that at 3 or 4 years old, he called 911. He knew how to pick up her phone and call 911. And so
he did it through Siri.
Oh, that's
he said, Siri, call 911. My mom is being bad.
It's still
Siri, cancel.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Oh God, I didn't even think about that.
We do not want you getting in trouble for making a false 911 call.
Oh.
Don't do that.
I'm so glad you did that. So, I mean, it's a funny story, but on the mom's side of it, I mean, can you imagine if the police showed up at your door because, your little kid called?
They're going to arrest you because you ate Cole's ice cream.
Oh, that would be bad because that's happened once or twice.
But this was also in Wisconsin where we learned that they are serious about their dairy. So.
Oh, that's true.
This is true.
Anyway, a little disappointed, but now we know the truth.
Well, stop making up fake laws, guys. Don't.
And attorney's office, stop passing them along.
Yeah, for real. Stop taking these vague ordinances and coming up with these hyper-specific situations because it's very misleading.
But at the same time, if y'all have some funny ones, we want to hear about them. I mean,
also true. But make sure they're
real.
real. Just actual weird, real laws.
Yeah, I need like the city ordinance or statute or state
Oh, no, see,
code.
I don't think I care if they're real or not. I just want to know if they're funny.
No, I want them to be real because they're less funny if they're fake.
Oh,
Yeah, isn't that the whole purpose of this episode? We just went through. They were funny until they weren't real, and then they're not funny anymore.
Yeah.
They're still kind of funny. They're just a disappointment that they're not real.
They're annoying more than anything.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But so we revisited so that we could, correct what was the word you used a while ago? We propagated it. Proliferated it. Yeah, we proliferated the story. And so now then we stand corrected. And
We all know that you can flick your boogers, but you probably shouldn't.
we knew that before.
Now it's confirmed.
And just to be careful of your butter in Wisconsin.
It's okay to eat butter substitutes. You just have to ask for them specifically. As a restaurateur, you cannot serve butter substitutes unless the customers specifically request it.
But if you knew, would you, as a guest visitor to Wisconsin, would you ask butter substitute? First off, I'd never ask for a butter substitute.
I was just sitting here thinking,
May have to ask for a butter substitute for health or allergy reasons.
okay, for health reasons specifically, if you happen to be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I highly, highly, highly recommend you go get a butter burger from Solly's. Enjoy every artery clogging moment of it.
I've heard of this.
Fantastic. Now I want a butter burger.
I'm not fixing a butter burger.
Well, I'll go get my Wisconsinite and see if I can talk him into it.
Okay. That sounds good. All right. Had fun with you guys.
Love y'all.
Bless. Love you.